was to get, and the Indians used this one. The Indians were very devious. Europeans would do something. That's a sarcastic joke. Okay. Cut a guy open and tie a little rope around his intestines or his innards. And that rope then was attached to a tree that was bent down and held, and then you cut the rope. Okay. Now remember, how many of you saw Braveheart, the movie? What did they do to Mel Gibson at the end? Hanged, drawn, and quartered. I don't know if you've ever read some of those descriptions of the judges. You shall be taken to the place of execution on a rail. There you shall be hanged by the neck until you are almost dead. You shall be cut down and disemboweled. Then your body will be drawn and quartered. And may God have mercy on your soul. Okay? Violence. Now, if you've ever played, let's say, a contact sport, okay, football, basketball. Basketball is not necessarily a contact sport, but it is now. Hockey, okay? And you're Mr. Duffy, we're playing football, and he's running down trying to catch me as I'm, going out for a pass. I'm going to slip him an elbow. And he don't like that, Next time I run down, I'm going to slip another elbow. About the third time, what's he do? He cold cocks me. Okay? Why? Because he's frustrated with me. Or he might not even wait for me. He's gonna come out and do something to me. Like I have a suspicion that if you follow the football game on Sunday, when the Steelers play in Cleveland in a couple weeks, that a certain linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers may be looking over his shoulder to see somebody. Why? Because that's, you don't trust these folks. You're not going to give them a chance. Can you trust an Indian? I don't think so. Can the Indians trust you? Now look at it from the Indians' point of view. When the Indians write the history of the United States, their first chapter is Columbus invades America. Invades. We talk about illegal immigrants. The Indians are going to come out. All right, all you folks, get the hell out of here. Go back to where you belong. Okay. So the frustrations are there, the anger is there, but it's a foregone conclusion that these Europeans, they just keep coming, and they keep coming, and there's nothing there to stop them. And one of the reasons there's nothing there to stop them, we for a long time thought that we had more technology than the Indians. Now, the thing that did the Indians in? Disease. Disease. One of the guys that showed up to help the pilgrims there had just come back from Europe. He had been captured, taken to Europe, and he came back. And in the 5 years that he was gone, his village lost 80 to 90% of its population. And we have calculated now and studied enough, we think what happened, because there was so much trading, believe it or not, going on in that part of the world between people from Europe coming over to fish, that some French sailor came in with hepatitis. And within a very short time, 80 to 90%. The description in this book, 1491, said, if you can imagine a graveyard 200 miles long from Connecticut all the way up into Maine. Some of these villages, when the pilgrims landed, the dead were still there. They had not been buried because there was nobody to bury them. In the one village, I think he was one of 5 who were left. In fact, if you read the accounts of the early Puritan leaders, they thank God that the Indians had been struck down by some disease. Every place in which Europeans encounter non-Europeans, I don't care if it's in Massachusetts or Virginia or in the Caribbean, or in Mexico, or in Peru, or in Guam, or in Hawaii, the end result is that the non-Europeans die because they don't have the immunity to disease. And let me remind you, last year at this time we were talking about swine flu and getting the... But see, that most of us in this room had no worries about the swine flu. Because the last time the swine flu came, and I remember I got it in 1957, and it got most of the kids in my class because my 7th grade class at Broadview was almost empty because we all had the swine flu. And we got over it. And in here is that little, whatever it is in there that's going to help me, but not my grandkids and not my kids. Okay? That's why if you've ever studied even things like the great influenza of post-World War I, the majority of people who died in that were young, because there had probably been a previous strain of that went back, let's say, back in the 1890s. So the young people who don't have it, okay? So, and see, the Indians know that. They can see, imagine from the Indians' point of view, you can see that you keep just getting pushed west. You can sign treaties, but that doesn't make a bit of difference. You're still going to get pushed west. They want your land. They're going to take your land. You're dying anyhow. So what do? You got to fight back. And so over this about 20-year period along these borders here, you have Indians who attack the whites. And it's brutal. I mean, they will take white babies and kill them. They will capture women and children. There are a lot of Europeans who end up as children to Indian families. And the Europeans, on the other hand, are just as vicious. We attack, we kill, okay? And it gets out of hand. Over that 20-year period, I have seen estimates as high as 1,500 Europeans who will die in that. Now that doesn't sound like a lot to us, but when you consider that Wheeling's population in 1810 was only 1,500. And there would be lots of places that would be settled. Next thing you know, these people all have to move someplace back. They'll go back. One of the safest places from this area to go to was once now Washington, Pennsylvania. That was far enough to the east that it was pretty well settled, or Fort Pitt. The reason you have a fort like Holliday's Cove up in what's now Weirton, or Fort Henry, or Fort Fincastle as it was called when it was first put up in the mid-1770s, is that those were garrison forts. You know, those were soldiers, not militia, soldiers, because they knew this was dangerous. And then if you went to all of these other little places, they were blockhouses. They were fortified homes that had small windows, heavy doors, and so on. But, again, they're made out of wood. If the Indians want to, they could burn you out, or they could, you know. So it's a very difficult time. You know, I remember reading an account of some poor woman in West Liberty. She's out hanging her laundry. And a couple Indians happened to be going by because that was one of the paths. And they said, hey, look, Indian, that's good. You know, they go out and there's the woman. You cut the... I don't know if you're familiar with some Indian cultures, the attacking of a woman is not seen as an act of cowardice because women are protected. Okay? So to kill a woman, you've got to be close to your enemies. Okay? And remember, Indians aren't the only ones who scalp. Europeans scalp too, and do some pretty things.